Today is Thursday, September 23rd, 2021. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. More pressure been applied to President Joe Biden's administration dealing with the Haitian migrant crisis. You got his Haitian envoy resigns in protest, blasting the American policy. You have the Congressional Black Caucus demanding answers. We'll be joined by Congresswoman Frederica Wilson and also Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. You also have black activists right now gathering supplies in Dallas, traveling to Del Rio, Texas as well. You also have the Haitian government also saying, hey, slow down the deportations so they can also have time to catch up. Folks, we got all of these areas covered, and Press Secretary Jen Psaki taking tough questions from black journalists at the White House. We got it all broken down. We have it for you right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Also on today's show, Black and Missing. Mainstream media all of a sudden discovers missing black people. They're the damn problem because they've been focusing on missing white folks. We will talk with the family of one young man who has been missing for quite some time, and also some horrible news. Another brother, Jelani Day, his body found today in the Illinois River in that state. During closing arguments during the R. Kelly trial, R. Kelly's lawyer compares the singer to Martin Luther King Jr. What the hell is that about? Also, more of the life and legacy of Melvin Van Peebles. We'll hear from filmmaker Nelson George, also filmmaker Michael Schultz, who directed Car Wash, and a heartfelt video from his son, Mario Van Peebles. It is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Far too many weak answers coming from the Biden administration as it relates to the Haitian migrant crisis happening on the Texas border. They continue to deport folks. They also are having more challenge them on their policy when it came to Border Patrol using horse reins to whip those individuals. The cops involved placed on administrative leave, but also what is America's policy in the treatment of Haitians? Why do we see a continuation of Haitians being treated far differently than Afghan refugees or even Cubans? We got comprehensive coverage on today's show. Joining us right now is Congresswoman Frederica Wilson out of Florida. Congresswoman, glad to have you on the show. I have been asking that question repeatedly. We know this goes back to the administration of President Jimmy Carter as to why America treats Haitians differently from Cubans and how they're being treated right now on the border. What answers have you gotten from Vice President Kamala Harris, from President Joe Biden, from others as well?
Well, it is very clear, and it has always been clear, that there's a difference between the way they treat all black immigrants versus white immigrants. So there's racism at the border. It's always been there. And as the Congressional Black Caucus moves forward, we're trying to address that. Right now, we are demanding that all deportations to Haiti cease. Stop right now. No one needs to be deported to Haiti. Haiti cannot receive any repatriated people at this time. Haiti is not in the condition to receive anyone. And I see them moving people now on the airplane, going back to Haiti. Many of them do not even know that they're going to go back to Haiti. They have not just left Haiti. They have just left Chile. They've left other Central American countries. And some of them just speak Spanish. So this is 10 and 15 years ago, and they're repatriating these people to Haiti, and it must stop now. I am pissed. That's my new word. Pissed beyond my reservation. I am stunned that we are experiencing this under a Democratic president. This makes no sense.
Now, you see the continuation of the policies of Donald Trump when it comes to Title 42, the usage of that. President Biden, then we was running, said he was going to be treating Haitians more humanely. What the hell happened?
Well, it is my understanding that this surge came as a surprise. They were not prepared for the surge. They were not ready for them as far as shelter, as far as food, as far as water, clean water, sanitation. They just came. And what is going on? There is a cottage industry of criminals who have created this, I guess you would say, misinformation across the Western Hemisphere saying, you see, the Afghans were let in. They have opened the border. Just come, pay us. We will bring you. And so these people, the money that they have saved, and they were sending it back to Haiti, they're using that money to travel with these people to the border. So they're being hoodwinked to think that the border is open. However, now that they are there, this has turned into a humanitarian crisis for the United States. The optics around the world is not good for the White House. So they need to solve this problem today. And it begins with stabilizing Haiti. You cannot deport anyone back to Haiti or anyone to Haiti without stabilizing Haiti. And they have not done that. So they need to give these Haitian nationals an asylum hearing, a date, carry them through the process. And if some of them are wearing ankle bracelets, it is my understanding. Some we have welcomed here in Miami, but it's still not enough. So we're asking the faith-based community to reach out, to offer them the ability to be their sponsors, because I believe those who have sponsors, they're allowing them to be released in the United States and giving them a court date. They have separated the children and put them on the Health and Human Services, because unaccompanied children have other guidelines that they're under. Who they are repatriating are Black men who we need here in America. There are enough jobs, there are enough places who will welcome them, and they need to stop repatriating them. Some of these people have not been in Haiti for 15 years. They left to go and work in Chile and Brazil for the World Cup, and they have not returned. So when those jobs dried up, there was racism in Chile, racism in Brazil. So they didn't have any jobs. And when they began to get this information that they could come to the United States, the border was open, they started on this trek, and it's 4,000 miles from Chile to the border where they are. So this is a crisis. It's a humanitarian crisis, and it has to be solved today.
One of the things that we have not heard, I'm going to play a little bit later, Yamisha Sindor of PBS was asking Jen Psaki, why haven't we heard President Biden on this? This is one of those moments where, this has been going on for quite some time. We've been reporting on it every single day. We've asked the administration every single day, send someone onto this show to explain what's going on. They have not done so thus far. And so is it a time for the president, for President Biden, not Press Secretary Jen Psaki, not Vice President Kamala Harris, for President Biden to come out and speak to the nation, speak publicly on this?
When the president of Haiti was murdered, I requested that the president have a fireside chat with the people of Haiti. That was long before this. So now that coupled with that, the earthquake, the hurricane, and this deportation debacle, definitely it is time. It's long overdue.
All right, Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, we surely appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us. And hopefully we'll have a resolution to this issue soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, and do this, and be sure to send me a text so I can have your, my number ain't changed, so I need to get your new number, so just send me a text.
Okay.
All right, love the hat. All right, take care. Folks, today, as I said, Michelle Sandero was questioning Jen Psaki, the press secretary. It got a little heated. Here's this exchange today, the White House briefing room.
Go ahead, Yamiche.
Thanks, Jeff. A couple of questions on Haiti. The first is the president has often used his bully pulpit during the most important times in his administration. Why is he not using that bully pulpit to speak out forcefully himself on the treatment of patients?
I would say, Yamiche, certainly I've represented to you all his point of view. His point of view is also reflected in the actions that have been taken through the administration, including the investigation, including the change in policy. The Secretary of Homeland Security oversees these efforts and has been quite outspoken and quite visible on what steps we should take moving forward. And he certainly may still speak to it. Obviously, there's a lot of events happening here, including the UN General Assembly, COVID, and others, and I wouldn't rule that out.
And just to say, respectfully, I just have a couple more questions. Everyone else got questions in. Respectfully, I understand that you are the spokesperson for the president. These are images that are traumatizing Haitian Americans that he promised to treat respectfully and with humanity. Why isn't the president telling people himself these images that people say look like slavery are wrong? Me as president, I as president, condemn them. How is he not doing that? Why is he not doing that? What are people supposed to take away from the fact that he's not at the bully pulpit himself talking about these images?
Yamiche, I think people should take away that his actions make clear how horrible and horrific he thinks these images are, including an investigation, including a change of policy, including conveying clearly that this is not acceptable and he's not going to stand for this in the Biden-Harris administration. Our actions make that absolutely crystal clear, as have our engagements with a range of voices, a range of concerned advocates, members of Congress, and others who we want to communicate with, not just about our horror, but also about what our immigration policy is moving forward.
Also said in his letter, he called the U.S. policy inhumane, deeply flawed. Does the president believe anything in this letter that Daniel Foote is saying rings true, has some sort of point that he believes is true?
Which aspect?
He called the policy toward Haiti inhumane. He said that
He wasn't specific in his letter. What I noted earlier before, let me finish, Yamiche. What I noted earlier before is that we have taken very specific actions as it relates to the horrific photos that we're not going to stand for in this administration. I don't know if he was referring to that or something else. That's why I raised the point. His purview, let me finish, Yamiche. His purview was not about migration. He didn't raise his concerns about migration privately. We respect his point of view, respect his ability to bring forward concerns, to raise ideas, to raise proposals. That's certainly something the president welcomes from everybody on his team and something that he had the opportunity to do in a range of meetings. We also have to make decisions here based on what we feel are going to help promote democracy in Haiti, including Haitian-led reforms, Haitian-led steps on the ground to make changes in the country.
A number of people who say that he did raise concerns over the deportation of Haitians and the treatment of Haitians. Are you saying then that Daniel Foote is not telling the truth in this letter?
I would point you to the State Department, who have conveyed clearly in their statement what I just said.
I promise.
Yep.
The last question is, Daniel Foote, the former special envoy to Haiti, he's raising this idea that the U.S. should be listening to Haitian civil society, not backing the current prime minister who was not elected by the people. What's the president's response to that? Because those civil society members have been telling me and other reporters for months, even before the assassination of the president, that President Biden was not listening to the people of Haiti about how to move forward with their government?
We support a Haitian-led process charting the country's course through the current political situation. We don't back any one political group, and we continue to encourage all political stakeholders to engage in dialogue and find solutions together. And that has been our objective through all of our policy process making throughout the course of this, in addition to providing a range of assistance, training to people on the ground. Go ahead.
Now, folks, again, let's talk about that Haitian envoy. In his resignation letter to Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, Daniel Foote says the inhumane and counterproductive decision to deport thousands of Haitian refugees have led to his immediate resignation. This is the letter here that he lays out. First of all, I don't want to go to that first, folks. I'm going to go this here. I'd rather have the whole letter. I want to do this here. Let me pull up because I want to show the lead paragraph, which is the most important, because he gets right to the issue quite quickly in this here. And this is what he says. Come to my computer, please. This is what he says. Our policy approach to Haiti remains deeply flawed, and my recommendations have been ignored and dismissed when not edited to project a narrative different from my own. The people of Haiti, mired in poverty, hostage to the terror, kidnappings, robberies, and massacres of armed gangs, and suffering under a corrupt government with gang alliances, simply cannot support the forced infusion of thousands of returned migrants lacking food, shelter, and money without additional avoidable human tragedy. The collapsed state is unable to provide security or basic services, and more refugees will fuel further desperation and crime. Surging migration to our borders will only grow as we add to Haiti's unacceptable misery. Haitians need immediate assistance to restore the government's ability to neutralize the gangs and restore order through the national police. They need a true agreement across society and political actors with international support to chart a timely path to the democratic selection of their next president and parliament. They need humanitarian assistance, money to deliver COVID vaccines, and so many other things. But what our Haitian friends really want and need is the opportunity to chart their own course without international puppeteering and favored candidates, but with genuine support for that course. I do not believe that Haiti can enjoy stability until her citizens have the dignity of truly choosing their own leaders fairly and acceptably. Last week, the U.S. and other embassies in Port-au-Prince issued another public statement of support for the unelected de facto Prime Minister, Dr. Ariel Henry. And I'm going to pull up this second piece right here. He said, as interim leader of Haiti, and have continued to tout his, quote, political agreement over another broader earlier accord shepherded by civil society. The hubris that makes us believe that we should pick the winner again is impressive. This cycle of international political interventions in Haiti has consistently produced catastrophic results. More negative impacts to Haiti will have calamitous consequences, not only in Haiti, but in the U.S. and our neighbors in the hemisphere. Signed, Daniel Foote, and he will, of course, he sent it to the Undersecretary for Political Affairs, the Assistant Secretary for Western Hemisphere Affairs, the Acting Director General, Congressman Gregory Meeks, Chair of the U.S. House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee, and Congressman Andy Levin, House of Representatives. I've seen a lot of resignation letters, Dr. Greg Carr, but very few have been that blunt in resigning in protest from the State Department.
Well, it's always good to be with you and with everyone on Thursdays, Roland, weekly. But, you know, this is a particularly heavy week. And another reason why Black Star Network is so important. This story is going to be covered a lot of places, but it won't be covered anywhere like this. Daniel Foote basically is a traitor. He's a traitor to the American project in this moment. They threw him under the bus. This is a career diplomat. He joined the Department of State in 1998. He has been stationed in Zambia. He has worked in Central America. He has done Bolivia, other places, Latin America. And he's only been in Haiti as a special envoy since the end of July when Moise was killed, the prime minister. But they installed Ariel Henry. You see, the United States government installed Ariel Henry. You see, the Biden administration installed Ariel Henry to do exactly what he is doing. And the response from Ned Price, who's a spokesperson from the State Department, to Mr. Foote's allegation that his recommendations have been cast aside, they said, no, we didn't cast them aside. We considered them and considered that they were, quote, this is the Biden administration, quote, harmful to our commitment to the promotion of democracy in Haiti, and were rejected his recommendations during the policy process. They're in bed with, they stood him up with the Organization of American States. They're in bed with this cat. They're not just ignoring civil society. They don't want the Haitian people in charge of Haiti. Joe Biden, you mummy. And so as they have mounted up, as they've mounted now, as many as 7 flights now, they've ramped them up. These flights have about 145 people apiece. And we heard Congresswoman Wilson talk about this. Some of the people have been in Latin America for over a decade. They left after the earthquake in Haiti in 2010. They went to work in the World Cup in Brazil in 2014. The racist Brazilian government, which ended up with Bolsonaro there now, began to expel them. That's why they ended up in Chile. And as she said, they have been assaulted. There have been rapes. There's been robbery and thieves and people lying and saying if you trade for this money to bring them to the Texas border. And what is the Biden administration doing under this Title 42 piece that the Trump administration started? Joe Biden, they've been using the excuse that we're deporting people because of COVID, and they appealed a federal ruling that said you can't use that excuse. The Biden administration just appealed that. They are deporting people, and they're going to try to deport as many of them as they can, or turn them back to Mexico, release some into the United States. But Foote, apparently, Roland, finally, brother, he's had enough. This is a career civil servant, a member of the senior diplomatic corps, who looks as if he has had enough. And when Jen Psaki stood there and lied to the face of Yamisi Alcindor, whose parents came here from Haiti, who grew up in Miami, who talks about that, I'm sure it was very personal for that sister today in that room, they revealed that this no good settler state don't give a damn about black people, and that includes Joe Biden.
Rishi Kohler, Black Women Views. What's really interesting here when we talk about what's going on here is, yes, there is an expectation that a President Joe Biden was going to treat folks differently than Donald Trump did. Mm-hmm. And Joe Biden has got some answering to do to black people.
Absolutely. And I think he is, really passing the buck on this and kind of going in hiding instead of, using his bully pulpit, as Yamisha Sindora pointed out, to make a strong, forceful statement about this. I mean, he has been missing in action in terms of really speaking out forcefully about how inhumane and unacceptable this treatment is that we saw towards these Haitian migrants. And, I think part of the problem is that, he hasn't figured out yet what his overarching policy is going to be on immigration. He kind of got a get out of jail free card by passing the buck and allowing this narrative that Vice President Kamala Harris is over the borders and over immigration, even though she had a very narrow assignment for diplomacy and with the Northern Triangle nations and not over the border. But he let her take all the daggers since the announcement was made in March on immigration. Well, now the buck needs to stop with the president, the person who actually is over this policy. His administration, his secretaries are the ones that are appealing this ruling in Title 42. And so it's time for him to speak out. But I think the problem is that as a nation, we also haven't decided what we want to be when it comes to immigration. We saw Donald Trump, the last president, who was talking about build a wall, and he was so anti-immigrant, so anti-refugee, and yet he improved his performance with Latinos in 2020. And even in 2018, the Republicans made gains. And so we don't have a mandate within the party. We don't have a mandate within the country on how we want to treat immigrants, just the same way we are not treating Black citizens with as first class citizens. Look at what's happening with voting suppression and rights all around the country. And so this is just another indication of the fact that we as a country have not grappled with who we want to be. And as a result, we continue to be who we have always been, which is inhumane, treating Black people, whether they're immigrants, whether they're Black citizens as second class citizens, and inflicting more pain and horror. And there's absolutely no reason to be, quote unquote, repatriating Haitian migrants and refugees back to a homeland. It's their original homeland, but places they have not been for over a decade. So there are so many flaws in this, but I also have to point out, I know people don't want to hear about logistics and facts, but there is a logistical aspect here that needs to be addressed as well. Maybe this is something that Congress can work on. The fact of the matter is there are over 300,000 open asylum cases. These are people that have already passed the first threshold that are working their way through the system. They only approve about 30,000 a year. At the rate of approval, it's going to take 4 years to get through all of the open asylum cases. You have over 1 million quote unquote open removal cases where they've determined that these folks need to be deported. And there's a huge backlog with that. So we have an immigration system that is completely broken. Even if you don't even take into account the racism and the disparities with how different groups are treated, there's still a very, very broken immigration system that has to be fixed and has to be addressed so that people who do come here can be processed in an orderly fashion instead of there being chaos, and instead of them saying, well, look at the optics of a bunch of 10,000 people under a bridge. We need to solve those optics instead of solving the humanitarian crisis that we're dealing with. So this is a very layered issue. I don't have the expertise to talk about U.S., Haiti, government interfering and all that nature and all that stuff. But I will say that this is a very layered thing, and it's an emotionally charged and traumatic thing that we're looking at. But there are so many issues that need to be addressed that aren't even a part of the conversation yet.
Before I go to you, would you, my Congresswoman Yvette Clarke of New York. Congresswoman Clarke, glad to have you here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You represent a number of Haitians in your district, a number of Haitian Americans. What are they saying to you? What are you hearing from them regarding this crisis on the Texas border?
Roland, they are distraught, but they are not dissuaded. They are energized to do whatever they must do, what we must do to make sure that, one, there's accountability with the Department of Homeland Security and Border Patrol, but two, most importantly, that the Haitian migrants are given the same due process that all of the migrants seeking refugee status, asylum in the United States are afforded. We are very focused. Of course, it is a traumatic thing to watch people of African descent, Black people, Haitian people treated in the way that we have seen. We know that this migration is a culmination of a number of very complex situations, and it is up to us as Americans to stand up for the creed that we are accepting of all people in our nation, that asylum is something that has been at the heart of who we are as a people. So my constituency, while disappointed, while very just angry and distraught over what has transpired, are energized to make sure that there is justice at the end of the day.
This is, of course, Democratic administration. Bottom line is, if this was Donald Trump, folks would be raising holy hell all up and down. As far as we're concerned, there's no difference. How these Black migrants are being treated is wrong, and President Joe Biden needs to say something. He needs to be seen speaking. We've heard from Vice President Kamala Harris. We've heard from Press Secretary Jen Psaki. We've heard from CBC members, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, the chair, and so many others. When is he going to say something that speaks to this issue? Because he pledged to treat migrants humanely when he was running for president. Well, now he's in the office.
Well, it's my hope that he's hearing the outcry of the people. Certainly, we went to the White House to make it plain to them, we being members of the Congressional Black Caucus me being the head of the Immigration Task Force, co-chair of the Caribbean Caucus and co-chair of the Haiti Caucus in the House of Representatives, I've made it unequivocally clear that what we have experienced as people of African descent was amplified in terms of the marginalization and brutality against Black bodies that we witnessed with these Border Patrol agents. We have asked that these Border Patrol agents be held accountable, and as far as I'm concerned, that means dismissed, and that there are a whole host of other actions that need to be taken by this administration. So we recognize that this was a digression that can be overcome. Right now, we've asked for the halt of any more repatriation of Haitian nationals back to Haiti. And again, that there be due process for those who are seeking refuge and asylum in the United States of America. I've seen the administration begin to move in that direction. I'm holding them accountable each and every day. As you know, we want accountability, we want transparency, and most of all, we want our people to be treated with human dignity.
Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Roland, and thank you for being on top of this issue, as I know you would have been. But this is something we cannot abide with as Americans, as African Americans, as Black Americans, and in my case, as a Caribbean American. This strikes at the heart of who we are as a nation, and this will not be the final word. There's much more that needs to be done, not only for these migrants, but for the island nation of Haiti. And I intend to be on the front lines and leading that charge. So thank you once again, and I appreciate the attention you're giving to this issue, Roland. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. All right, Faraji Muhammad, your thoughts on all of this. It is certainly increasing. It's a problem. We're seeing this all across. We're seeing, of course, activists work to pull together resources. They're doing that in Dallas as we speak. We're going to try to get Tamika Mallory, Reverend Freddie Haynes on the line as well. They're going to be driving supplies and resources down to Del Rio. I saw Pastor Jamal Bryant and others are going to be heading down there as well. Biden administration has got a problem, and I don't know who the hell is advising them, but they better fix it real quick.
Oh, no doubt, Brother Roland. And this is why it's important for us to even have this conversation, because one of the big questions I was going to, would ask any Black political leader, whether it was Representative Wilson or Congresswoman Clarke, is what should the average Black American do right now? What should be done? Because I see Jay Morrison, other folks are talking about hitting the Del Rio. What about those of us at home? How do we help? How do we support? How do we get involved? How do we offer our, our services or whatever that can be done? I think that's a big question for us to create the sense of camaraderie, brotherhood, and sisterhood among the people. But the other thing I think is very interesting too, Brother Roland, is the fact that AP News reported this, that the criteria for deciding who is flown to Haiti and who is released in the U.S. are a mystery. According to the AP, they said 2 officials said single adults were a priority. And they said that if previous handling of asylum seekers is any guide, the administration is more likely to release those deemed vulnerable, including pregnant women, families with young children, and those with medical issues, and exempt unaccompanied children from expulsion flights on humanitarian grounds. Now, that's based on the previous policy. But that's not determining, that doesn't speak to where we are at the present moment. And I love what Reese had said in terms of where we are in this country on immigration. We know that there is a deep, deep level of racism when it comes to immigration in this country that we afford to white immigrants and migrants versus Black immigrants and migrants. And I think that's the problem. I think that's the problem. But we can't talk about that longstanding issue right now because we got thousands of people living under a bridge in Texas. So we have to ask the questions, why isn't there a criteria? What should the criteria be at this point? Press the president, as folks have been saying, continue to get people involved. But I really would love to see our brothers and sisters down in Texas, see what kind of support can we give them. And I'm talking about those who are in Houston, those who are in other parts, your hometown, Roland. I mean, what can we do as a people on this side of the conversation? How can we be supportive in this effort?
Well, first of all, those things are happening. I mean, literally, as I'm sitting here, as we're talking to folks and going through this, give me 1 second. I'm literally texting Linda Sarsour, Reverend Freddie Haynes, and Tamika Mallory with, of course, Until Freedom. What they are doing they're having me supplies. First of all, pulling together supplies and resources. And one of the things that Linda just said is we now have an 18-axle truck that we don't even know what to do with, plus the first truck we had. People, she said, people were just waiting for folks to tell them how to help. So that's happening. But the issue that, of course, that you're going to have is if people all of a sudden just start sending stuff, you got to have a place to send it to.
Right.
Well, you can't.
Right.
And so the problem here is folks are going down the Del Rio, but here's the first question. Are those goods, supplies, are going to be able to get to the people? What do you do with it? And so you go down, what do you do? And so it's the same thing when you get the earthquake. Our whole deal was we will tell you where to send stuff, but it's got to go to the right place. Greg, go ahead.
No. I'm just rolling to the point. And I am equipped to have this conversation about U.S. interference in policy of Haiti and the government. And all these things are true at the same time. There isn't a broken immigration system in this country, particularly since 1965, the Immigration and Naturalization Act. What there is a determined attempt to curate who gets to come in this country and who doesn't. Mm-hmm. It's not broken. It's not broken at all. In fact, it is a spigot that has always been controlled as far back as the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act to keep this country white. Now, in terms of the U.S. policy toward Haiti, the Biden administration is following in the footsteps, as you have said, Roland, of every administration going back to the damn Haitian Revolution when it comes to regulating how Haiti fits in the geopolitics of this hemisphere. So that the corporate interests in Haiti, I'm talking about the people who make the draws and the baseballs in both the Haiti and Dominican Republic, that is what is informing the fact that after the assassination of Moise, when this guy went down there as Biden's emissary, the special envoy, in July, to now, they took out the person that the remnants of the Haitian government decided you be the leader until we get. The Biden administration is like, no, they vetted Dr. Henry, along with the Organization of American States. None of this is hidden. It takes maybe a few keystrokes and a couple of conversations to see. And so as people in the United States want to send aid, the folk who are down there under the bridge at Del Rio, access has been blocked by the local police and the federal government. It's important to understand. Also, that number is shrinking decidedly. Why? Because they are flying people back. At last count I had, and you may have more recently, there are less than 4,000 people down there now. There are 3.2 thousand people in custody. There are over 1,400 who have been returned, whether they're sent back to Mexico or even, depending on their papers, back to the sources of where they came from. And the flights, as many as now, 7 a week, this uptick by the Biden administration, are landing at Toussaint Louverture. People are getting off the plane, and in one case, tried to fight the ICE people to get back on the plane, come back to the United States because they have nothing in Haiti. Now, the only other thing I'll say is that this is not unrelated. I know people get tired of me hearing me saying, but it's okay. Do a little research. There is no we in this country. There's no moral core in this country. There's no we're better than this. The sitting vice president of the United States made a statement. This is after the damn Democratic Party gave the right wing talking points by showing her at the Howard Hampton football game Saturday, combining it with these Haitians under the bridge, and basically revealing the fact that the Biden administration set her up in the first place by, as you say, Reese, saddling her with this idea that you would control the border, which was never supposed to include all this. But at the end of the day, even the vice president has said something. Right now, we are all Haitians. One of the most encouraging things I've seen in this and that I think we've seen in this, is that we have set aside all our little petty differences about where the black people come from. We continental Africans.
Yeah.
You heard Yvette Clark. You heard Frederica Wilson. We are all Haitians. And that cracker on that horse with that whip, bring it, baby, because your little country's falling apart. You're going to whip the right one in a minute. Y'all real close now. You're taking another step closer to the dissolution of this settler project. There's nothing broken in this country. There's nothing broken in this country. This is an anti-black project. And we're seeing another example of it today in Texas.
Well, when you talk about how this view of whiteness, and I've told y'all about this white supremacist Charlie Kirk, big time Trump person. Listen to what he said about what should be happening with the border dealing with Haitians. Listen.
Of course, that's a lie. We know that's not true. You have pictures of people that have pieces of paper that says, please help us. I do not speak English. What bus do I need to take? Thanks for your help. As they get released into the interior of the United States. Bill Melugin is saying they are releasing entire family units into the United States. Now, some people are saying I'm being too harsh on Texas. Well, Texas, whether they like it or not, are front and center, smack dab in the middle of the great question of our time, which is, who runs the country? What do you do when you start to have a apathetic tyrant, now apathetic when it comes to immigration law, but very engaged when it comes towards forcing vaccinations? What do you do? I know so many amazing patriots in the great state of Texas, and I love Texas, that have been waiting and are willing for this moment. Deputize a citizen force, put them on the border, give them handcuffs, get it done. Sure, that's dramatic. You know what's dramatic? The invasion of the country. We're going to talk more about that. We're going to talk about how the other side has openly admitted that this is about bringing in voters that they want and they like, and honestly diminishing and decreasing white demographics in America. We're going to say that part out loud because so many people in the corporate media are afraid to talk about it. Charlie Kirk here. Check out the Charlie Kirk Show podcast. Be right back.
No, Charlie, we aren't afraid to talk about what you white nationalists have been saying and want to do because we've been calling that out. First of all, let's just be clear. You can't blame what's happening with decreasing white folks on migrants. Y'all the ones who stopped screwing. You can't blame. I mean, Charlie, I know you dumb. I mean, I know Candace Owens makes you look like a Rhodes Scholar. But let me just show you a couple of things here, Charlie, that probably you had know nothing about because aren't you also like a college dropout, just like Candace? Let's see here. We're going to type in here. Go to my computer, please. Declining white birth rates in America. What comes up? Right here. White deaths exceed births in a majority of U.S. states. Let me go ahead and increase this here. In 2016, more non-Hispanic whites died than were born in 26 states, more than at any time in U.S. history. See, Charlie, y'all the ones who not screwing. And that's really what the pushback, Reese, Faraji, and Greg, is all about. They are, oh my God, we're losing this. The demographic numbers, that's the whole deal. The opioid crisis made it worse. White life expectancy dropped. COVID's making it worse, dropping. That's why every time one of these white anti-vaxxers, white 707 conservative radio talk show hosts, bye, they gone. They dead.
Right.
That's what's going on here. And so what they're doing is taking it out on people of color. And the problem is that President Joe Biden and too many Democrats are so scared of Republicans. Oh my God, they're criticizing us over immigration. Oh, then you have this white nationalist, Tucker Carlson, on Fox News, leading the charge every single night, saying stuff like this.
An unrelenting stream of immigration. But why? Well, Joe Biden just said it. To change the racial mix of the country. That's the reason. To reduce the political power of people whose ancestors lived here and dramatically increase the proportion of Americans newly arrived from the third world. And then Biden went further. He said that non-white DNA is the, quote, source of our strength. Imagine saying that. This is the language of eugenics. It's horrifying. But there's a reason Biden said it. In political terms, this policy is called the Great Replacement, the replacement of legacy Americans with more obedient people from faraway countries. They brag about it all the time, but if you dare to say it's happening, they will scream at you with maximum hysteria. And here you have Joe Biden confirming his motive on tape with a smile on his face.
Legacy Americans. Go ahead, Faraji.
What is he talking about?
I'm blown away. I'm blown away by this whole thing. But, I think that, this whole idea that this is a mass, as Tucker Carlson saying, mass movement to decline the white population, this is straight out of something, this is white paranoia, this is white fear, because America is coming to a reckoning, and this whole country, this whole world is coming to a reckoning that white supremacy is dying, and you're seeing people rise up.
No. That's a mistake we make. White supremacy is not. No. White supremacy is not dying. More whites are dying. That's a difference.
No. And here's why I say white supremacy is dying. The belief in white supremacy is dying. That is, people are starting to rebel against that idea of this. Black people, brown people across this country, across this world.
Here's the no. See, no. Gotta correct you, my brother. Here's why.
Go ahead,
Here's why. By 2043, okay, America will be a nation majority people of color. But that's 53% Black, Latino, Asian, Native American, 47% white. The problem is you have an increasing number of Latinos who are identifying as white.
They are identifying as white right now.
No, hold up.
But you also have Brother Roland, you also have an emerging number of Latinos and Hispanics who are pushing for not an identification with white, but they want to be placed in a different category, in their own independent category.
I'm telling you, here's the deal. We're seeing it play out in Texas right now. In the last election, you had some Texas counties that were Hispanic counties saw a 200 to 300% increase for Donald Trump over Joe Biden. Well,
Sure.
Follow me here. What I'm saying is this here. Reese raised the point earlier. How in the hell you saw an increase in Latino voting for Trump over Biden? It's because we got to deal with it. You have an increasing number of Latinos / Hispanics, depending upon what part of the country you're in, who identify as white values, white view of America, and don't feel for us. And so when we talk about black and brown coalition, we got to understand. And of course, I have seen this with my own eyes and my experience in Texas. There's a difference between somebody who is from Mexico, there's somebody from Peru, there's somebody from Venezuela, there's somebody from Nicaragua, somebody from Colombia. And so the values aren't the same. So you got some folks who come over here and like, nah, I'm white. But for that contract and for college, I'm brown, but I'm white. So there's a dynamic at play here that we got to own up to.
And I agree with you. I'm just simply saying that even with that dynamic at play, Brother Roland, the fact is people are tired of white people exerting their force, white people saying that they're better, that whole idea that white people should be in the leadership role, white people should be empowered, people are pushing back on that. We're seeing that literally every single day in this country. So what that other radio hosts and Tucker Carlson are afraid of is they're seeing their world going down and it's crumbling because the belief system that keeps this world up is flawed and is now being seen as a way to keep people as slaves rather than masters of their own fate.
Greg, go ahead.
No, I mean, yeah, I think a number of these things work in tandem. The real villain of this piece is the nation state. Anytime you begin to parcel out rights and resources based on where you came out of your mother's womb, in other words, the concept of citizenship, you then enter people in a version of the Hunger Games. So we'll have a majority non-white country, but white people will then become the largest minority group in the country. And what holds whiteness together is anti-blackness. The hope for this country, and I don't have very much hope for it, and that's okay because I have hope for humanity. We have to understand nation state is a recent phenomenon in world history. But the hope for this country would be to ultimately abandon race logics. Charlie Kirk, who I would love to meet at the border, if he had the manhood to screw his little courage up and grab a whip and join him, I would love to join him down there and have a nice little dialogue. It would probably last about maybe the seconds it would take for me to erase all his bridge work with my fist. But we know he's not going anywhere near the border, so that would never happen. Charlie Cook and Kirk and the youngish-looking Tucker Carlson know very well that what they're doing is rallying the only thing that brings whiteness together, which is anti-blackness. And they're doing it exactly as you said. This, to quote Francis Cress Welsing and others, the public enemy, the fear of a black planet. Now, at the same time, there is nothing, as you said, Roland, there's nothing binding those who speak Spanish together. So, as you said, that caravan that left Latin America and came through Central America over those thousands of miles Representative Wilson talked about included Venezuelans, included some Cubans, included folk from other countries in Latin America, in addition to Haiti, included Dominicans. Dominican Republic and Haiti absurdly on the same island, but they were divided by a white nationalist project, this international, notion of whiteness. But the reason I'm bringing it all together is once you reach the United States, you acquire, if you can get it, a version of enhanced humanity that we call citizenship. This is the problem. It's not just a U.S. problem, it's a global problem. Once you become or have access to American citizenship, you will do anything to preserve it, maintain it, and extend it because it comes at the expense of other people in the hemisphere and in the world who have citizenship in these other imaginary places we call nation states. So you will have Cubans, white Cubans for sure, but increasingly non-white Cubans who will say, if my citizenship will be preserved by voting this way, I will. It isn't just values, although a lot of people who speak Spanish are Catholic. If you're in Texas, as you've just told us, you don't even have to be a white Hispanic, so to speak. You could be a Hispanic who thinks it will benefit me if I can get to point the finger at somebody else and thereby get them to stop looking at me. This is the zero-sum game of race. And so what we're seeing now is a tipping point. We're in a country that never had a we. It isn't a nation. There are many different people in the borders of this nation state negotiating for themselves and the groups they come from to avoid last place, to use the work of the anthropologist Randy Mattori. But this moment, when you see this white boy on this horse and Maxine Waters evokes enslavement, and Yamiche Alcindor goes after Jen Psaki, and she should have went after her with more barrels than she did. When Kamala Harris, who we can debate policy decisions, comes out and speaks as the sitting vice president, and the president of the United States is silent because he is still chasing them three imaginary white voters who are not going to return the Congress to the United States to the Democrats in 2022, and he's going to lose the election in 2024 because the white party is unified around anti-us, and we are not unified because there's no logic in this country that unifies the non-whites because we're all too busy trying to avoid last place. This thing is headed for a fracture.
And the thing here, Reese, when it comes down to politics, and I asked, you're going to hear in a second when I talk with Congresswoman Karen Bass, Democratic Party, you think You gonna hold on to the House and the Senate in 2022 without black people?
Come on.
Oh,
Come on.
They I don't know. Ron Klain, Chief of Staff. You might want to wake up. If I'm Susan Rice and Cedric Richmond, I'm walking to the Oval Office saying, "Say, bro, do you understand what you're doing?
Yeah.
No George Floyd Justice Act, no For the People Act, no John Lewis Act. This Haitian issue here. Oh, you asking for an ass whooping." Reese, go ahead before I go to break.
Come on.
Yeah, I do not look forward to 2022 and having to make the argument again, please vote like your life depend on it, blah, 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 when we're back in the same situation of not having results to show for it and only being able to show that it would have been worse had we picked the other guy. So there has to be some sort of come to Jesus moment. There has to be a reckoning. The Democratic Party has to figure out its identity and stick with it on immigration. And that identity cannot be appealing to white nationalism. To the point about white supremacy, there are plenty of people who are foot soldiers of white supremacy that are not white. Tim Scott is the one who tanked the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act along with Manchin. We have the new Florida Surgeon General is a black man who just got rid of mask mandates and even quarantine mandates in schools. And so there are plenty of black people that we can identify that are foot soldiers of white supremacy. To Dr. Carr's earlier point about the we with black people on this Haiti thing, I think that the images are so jarring and they're so transferable from something that's specific to Haitian migrants experiencing and something that enslaved peoples in the United States and black people in the United States have experienced, that there is a shared trauma there. But I do have to point out that one of the most divisive and effective tactics that's been used to divide black people and degrade our political power is, I won't even name the name of the organizations, but y'all can fill in the blank. But they have used xenophobic descendants of slaves as opposed to immigrants. They've even been against
and now
people.
all of a sudden they trying to sit here and cape for Haitian migrants. I'm like, sit y'all ass down.
But the reason for that is because it's an issue that is politically charged and can alienate black voters from the Democratic Party. So there are a lot of issues at play. We have xenophobia within the black community. I don't think there's an all good big kumbaya situation that's coming together just because of these images, but the images are universally abhorrent to anybody who has a conscience and a soul and understands that black peoples from across the diaspora have humanity. But we cannot ignore that we are still very much fractured. And even though we might come together to express our outrage towards the administration, that doesn't mean that we all have the same goals, because there are some people that actually do identify with, it's not Tucker Carlson and Kirk called it the white replacement theory, but there is a notion that they're taking our jobs and we have to take care of our own people, and y'all are talking about letting them through. So there are a lot of things that we have to talk about. We can't just put a rosy picture on it like we're all in this together and we're all united. We have to deal with those issues within our community as well, so that we can really harness our political power so that everybody in our community benefits.
Folks, we got a lot more on today's show. I got to go to a break. Coming up, we're going to hear from Congresswoman Karen Bass. No George Floyd Justice Act. Where you at, Senator Tim Scott? I thought you were going to bring at least 10 Republicans with you. Same 10 Senator Joe Manchin are going to bring, huh? Yeah, I thought so. Also, we're going to talk about black and missing. All of a sudden, white media now trying to do stories on why there's no coverage on black and missing, because y'all punk asses the one doing it. Because you basically got white bosses. Also, DOJ indicts a white Louisiana state trooper for beating a black man, a suspect. And we'll also talk to Omar Dorsey of Queen Sugar, and more tributes for the great Melvin Van Peebles. You'll hear from author, documentarian Nelson George, as well as great director Michael Schultz, and an emotional video that Mario Van Peebles put out last night about his father. Folks, you're watching the Black Star Network. Be sure to download the app. If you don't have it, download it on all platforms, Apple, Android, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku TV, Fire Stick, Xbox, and Smart TV. Support Roland Martin Unfiltered by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. where your dollars make it possible for us to do what we do. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. I'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered, the Black Star Network, in a moment.
I believe that people our age have lost the ability to focus the discipline on the art of organizing.
The challenges, there's so many of them and they're complex, and we need to be moving to address them. But I'm able to say, watch out, Tiffany. I know this road.
That is so freaking dope.
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches! Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way. Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared. You dig?
Hi, I'm El DeBarge.
Hey, yo, Peace World. What's going on? It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
The Department of Justice have indicted a former Louisiana state trooper for alleged excessive use of force against a black man. Jacob Brown is charged with a single count of deprivation of rights under color of law. The indictment alleges that on May 30, 2019, Brown assaulted a gentleman by repeatedly striking him with a flashlight. If convicted, Brown faces a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison, 3 years of supervised release, and a fine of up to $250,000. Now, folks, these are the sort of things that propelled Congress to move on the George Floyd Police Reform Act. Remember, President Biden said he wanted to sign that into law by the anniversary of the death of George Floyd, the one-year anniversary. That was in May. It passed. Democrats and Republicans have been negotiating. Senators Cory Booker, as well as Senator Tim Scott, have been going back and forth, had lots of conversations, lots of negotiations going on between the two. Well, guess what? Nothing has happened. There's no bill. Senator Tim Scott said he is disappointed with Democrats for the lack of willingness to compromise. Listen to this.
Negotiations coming to an end?
I am disappointed about it. I've spent several months working on it, and frankly, the amount of misinformation is remarkable from the other side of the aisle. It is disappointing without much of a question.
Yes, Senator Warren said this morning that talks aren't over on their end, but I know you said that they were the ones that walked away from the table here.
Yeah, I mean, the concern, of course, is that what they'll try to do is find some executive order or slide it into reconciliation in a very partisan fashion, and that's unfortunate and likely. They both, in their statements, made it very clear that they're looking for a way to do this from a partisan perspective, unwilling to negotiate on behalf of the communities that need the help the most. They're going to just find a way to shove it into something in a very partisan.
They're going to pursue executive order in a partisan fashion. You mean like the executive order that you agreed with? That same one, the one you agreed with under Trump? That's quite interesting. Earlier today, I talked with Congresswoman Karen Bass, who was involved in the negotiations on this. She has a different take than what Senator Tim Scott just said. Listen to our interview. All right, Congresswoman Karen Bass of California, glad to have you here. I hate that we don't have good news. We had you on before. There was a lot of hope that we were going to have the George Floyd Justice Act become reality. What happened?
Well, I think, Roland, it was a question of never being able to get to yes. The Senator Scott, really a lot of it hinged on him because he was going to deliver the 10 Republican votes. And Senator Booker, compromised. He went off and negotiated a deal with the Fraternal Order of Police because Senator Scott said, if you can show me you can get law enforcement support, I'll be open to it. And unfortunately, once it became public, the unions started going after each other, and that blew that up. And, I do have to qualify this by saying that the House of Representatives twice did our job. We passed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act last year and this year. But I think Senator Booker just kind of threw in the towel yesterday because he felt that he could never get Senator Scott to say yes, even having compromised all the way down to the bone.
So, look, there are a lot of us, frankly, who said we had no faith there were going to be 10 Republicans. Now, you had Senator Tim Scott and Senator Graham telling others, they could bring 20, 25 along. And so the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, the proof is in the pudding. But, Roland, I didn't have tons of faith. But when McConnell anointed Scott to negotiate the deal and said, whatever deal you negotiate, we will make sure it gets across the finish line, that was tons of reason for us to have hope. I
agree. No. Let me be clear. First of all, making the effort to negotiate to get a deal had to happen.
Right.
But my point was, I felt no matter what y'all did, unless y'all just gave everything up, the Republicans were going to always just try to find some other excuse, and the thing is also, Senator Tim Scott hasn't come out, explained himself, explained any of this. And the bottom line is what you just said. If McConnell said, what you bring to us, we're going to put forth, nothing, it's like, again, lock it down, make it happen.
Right. But I will tell you how far it went. One, I told you that Senator Booker negotiated a deal with the police that they agreed to. If that didn't work, we said, well, what about the Trump executive order? President Trump put that forward. It's still in effect. When President Trump put it forward, we didn't like it because it was at the height of the protests last year. But frankly, given that momentum is gone and is actually reversed and in the opposite direction, putting Trump's executive order into law this year looks different than it did last year. But Senator Scott was not able to agree to that. Now, that was President Trump's executive order with all branches of law enforcement supporting it. And so if you can't even agree to what is already in existence, then at that point you have to say that this is over, which is what Senator Booker did.
So here's the dilemma that Democrats are in. Democrats control the House. The House, as you said, passed it twice. The Senate did not pass it, but Democrats have it's a 50-50 tie in the United States Senate. Democrats have the White House. I'm already hearing from people who have said, no George Floyd Justice Act. We've seen what's happened with the Haitian and Texas border. No For the People Act. I'm hearing people say, I'm not going to be excited and interested in going out there and voting next year. This is going to have serious ramifications for Democrats to keep control of the House and the Senate in 2022. So, what are you telling the White House? What are you saying to, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer that, look, folks, understand, Black folks are not just going to sit here and look kindly on nothing actually getting passed.
You couldn't be more right. I mean, this is a devastating loss. The most important thing to me is the fact that an average day, 3 people die at the hands of police. So if you think about George Floyd's murder to now, you're talking over a year, there's probably been around 1,000 deaths involving officers. Now, I'm not saying all of them were like George Floyd. Some of them might have been appropriate in the sense that people might have been in the middle of a violent exchange. But without any transparency, without any accountability, with 18,000 police departments policing in 18,000 different ways, you know, it's really something that we were not able to bring about this change or voting rights or any of the other initiatives. We have to spend the time and help people understand that the problem in the Senate, as you well know, is that having majority is not enough. You have to have supermajority. But I believe at some point you have to look at that and say, if we're in control of the rules, then maybe we need to change the rules.
What's next? You know, now we're hearing, President out of the White House, President Biden may take action utilizing executive orders.
We asked that. We called on the administration to use its power to the fullest. I will tell you that the administration, in particular, Susan Rice, the chair of the head of the Domestic Policy Council, Cedric Richmond, were helpful every single step of the way. They provided advice, they provided support, and frankly, they had wanted to move much, much sooner, and we asked them to wait. So now that we have officially declared the negotiations over, we are calling on the administration to use every ounce of their power to move the needle forward. We might not have been able to pass legislation, but the administration can act. The administration has already acted by issuing instructions to the Department of Justice, or the Department of Justice rather issued instructions around chokeholds, around no-knock. You know that the investigations are going on. All of the stuff that Trump shut down is now back in effect, and the administration is acting aggressively. I hate to put all of the emphasis there, but until we can pass meaningful legislation, we have to use the power that we have, and that's the power of the administration. Now, when it comes to people voting next year, we need to talk about that. And we need to say that what we were able to get done, or what the administration was able to get done, in the absence of our ability to act.
Well, it's unfortunate that we sit here. There was tremendous pressure. There were people out there in the streets. But this is also what I've also said is that the activism, that pressure, has to continue. And frankly, I think Senator Tim Scott owes America an explanation as to what happened.
Well, I would agree. I do think, though, that the lesson to be learned from this is that it's most important to push legislation at the height of the momentum. And if we had been able to pass the legislation in the Senate last year, when there were hundreds of thousands of people out in every single state and countries around the world, it would have been a lot better. Again, the House did our job twice. It was the Senate where things die.
And that is all too often on so many issues that folks care about. Unfortunately, the public only sees who's in charge and says, "Oh, you failed," as opposed to those nuances. And so, Congresswoman Karen Bass, I do want to just give you an opportunity just to share your thoughts on what's happening on the border. There's lots of pressure being turned up on President Biden. His Haitian envoy resigned, blasting the Americans' policy towards Haiti. Just your perspective on that.
Well, I mean, I think it was absolutely atrocious. I mean, I looked at those, the footage of the officers on horseback whipping the migrants. And I hope that an investigation is done quickly, that they are fired, prosecuted if need be. And I do think that our policy, if those people are seeking asylum, then we need to treat them accordingly. And so I worry about the mass deportation of people to a country that they haven't been in for years. Remember, those folks did not get to Mexico, did not get to the border in a boat from Haiti. They came from South America. Some of them had been in South America for quite a while. And then you're sending them back to Haiti, where there's what?
Absolutely. Well, we continue the pressure. I've been asking for the administration every single day to have somebody come on my show to explain what's going on. I still need somebody to explain to me why in the hell we have a different policy for Haitians compared to Cubans, why we're accepting Afghan refugees, but we're turning our back on Haiti. And no one's in the administration seems to want to give an answer. And we're going to keep asking the question and trying to get somebody to answer that.
Okay.
Congresswoman, Congresswoman Bass, I got that laugh there. I appreciate it, Congresswoman Bass. Thanks a lot.
Okay, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
All right, have a good one.
Bye.
Oh, man, folks, it is certainly unfortunate that we're not going to see the George Floyd Justice Act passed. And yeah, Senator Tim Scott, you owe a much better explanation than what you said. Folks caught up with you in the hallway there to say Democrats did not accept compromise. Okay, detail that. Greg Carr, what do you make of Senator Tim Scott not being able to corral some votes? According to Congresswoman Karen Bass, Senator Cory Booker negotiated with the Fraternal Order Police. Democrats compromised on a whole lot of different areas. Scott couldn't deliver.
No, he couldn't. No, he couldn't. You know what's so funny, Roland? I love that interview, man. And I love how you picked up immediately on that laugh. I got that laugh. She know what it is. I want to congratulate Timothy Eugene Scott. Tim Scott doing Tim Scott things. I want to congratulate Tim Mission Accomplished Scott, who entered that quote-unquote negotiation in bad faith with one objective: to stop anything, to stop everything. That's why that ghoul, that old feckless old unreconstructed ghoul from Kentucky, Mitch McConnell, sent his servant, his good and faithful servant, into that conversation. I want to congratulate Senator Cory Booker, who finally reached the floor of his self-respect and said no. After I've given away everything, I want to congratulate the people who leaked the evisceration of the legislation by Senator Booker with the Fraternal Order Police after making a quote-unquote secret deal. I want to congratulate the people who leaked it so that then they could walk back from it, as those the Sheriff's Association and other groups met with Senator Tim Mission Accomplished Scott and young Lindsey, well, little Lindsey Graham in South Carolina. I want to congratulate everyone in the white nationalist contingent who sent Tim Scott into that room with one objective and one objective only: to defend the patter rollers. Don't let anything happen. And when you heard finally, which is why, again, when she laughed that laugh, this is a woman who managed the whole California legislature, who was on the short list to be Vice President of the United States candidate because of her capacity to negotiate, among other things, when Congresswoman Bass said that they couldn't even get the thing Donald Trump agreed to passed. That's all you need to know. They couldn't even pass a resolution in the United States Senate to say George Floyd was murdered. And guess who would vote against that resolution? Tim Mission Accomplished Scott. Young, good job, Tim. You're doing Tim Scott things. Proud of you, young boy.
Faraji?
Yeah, I just can't believe we're still at this place. And I think this is the reason why so many of our people just have lost hope and faith in the government of the United States. I mean, when you look at what this bill encompasses, I mean, what this act actually says, and I'm just going to read a quick excerpt of it. It says the bill enhances existing enforcement mechanisms to remedy violations by law enforcement. Among other things, it does the following: lowers the criminal intent standard from willful to knowing or reckless to convict a law enforcement officer for misconduct in a federal prosecution, limits qualified immunity as a defense to liability in a private civil action against the law enforcement officer, and grants administrative subpoena power to the Department of Justice in pattern or practice investigation. It also establishes a framework to prevent and remedy racial profiling by law enforcement at the federal, state, and local level. It also limits the unnecessary use of force and restricts the use of no-knock warrants, chokeholds, and precariated holds. And it creates a national registry, the National Police Misconduct Registry, to compile data on complaints and records of police misconduct. I mean, when you look at this act is nothing more than providing some level of justice to the victims of police brutality in this country. And for this country, for this Congress to not get to make it happen, you talked about a Dr. Carr, Tim Scott, and all of the other, cohorts in that group. The fact is, this is exactly why America's in the place that it's in, because it does not even want to recognize truth. It does not even want to recognize justice. It's so wrapped up in its own wicked pursuit of power and partisanship. It can't even come to terms on simple things. This country doesn't even have a national registry of police misconduct. What's wrong with that? They say, oh, it's qualified immunity. That's the problem. Police should not be civilly liable when they kill somebody. Why not? Why not? You could sue a doctor, can't you? If they kill you, can't you? I mean, this is absolutely insane. And for us to be in this place in 2021, after all of this unrest, people say, oh, it is the reckoning of America. No, it's not. It's not a reckoning. It's the same damn thing. Nothing.
Reese.
I can't.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's another example of how ineffective Senate Majority, how ineffective Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is. Where's the leadership of the Democratic Senate caucus? They consistently drop the ball. They have the majority. There's no kind of filibuster reform whatsoever. They completely got rid of the notion of the talking filibuster, of the being present filibuster, as opposed to being able to filibuster through email. And so what I see is continuing to wave the white flag, and it's not going to be enough to go to the Democratic voters, to go to the young voters, and even going to some Black voters in 2022 and say, well, the House passed the bill, but the Senate didn't, and Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. That's the political reality. But people don't like to traffic in political realities. They don't like to traffic in practicalities and Senate process. And so this is a very unfortunate development. It's also very typical of the Republicans to basically put it out there that there is no getting to yes. There's going to be the runaround. Same thing happened with Obamacare, where Obama gave away the farm. I shouldn't say that. Obama made a lot of compromises to attract Republican votes, and they still did not support it. And so Democrats, I don't know how much more they have to endure to figure out that you don't negotiate with terrorists, and what they're going to have to do to figure out that Chuck Schumer is going to have to step the hell up and get some damn votes. He was fine in uniting his caucus against Trump, but now it's time to actually govern and lead and legislate. You don't get to fall back on, well, we're just trying to, obstruct the Trump administration, and well, they got the votes and they're going to be able to, to pass whatever they want to pass. You have to actually pass some shit, Chuck Schumer. Nobody ever mentions Chuck Schumer. We can put some of the blame on Cory Booker because he negotiated. Where is Chuck Schumer?
That's right.
Even in anytime something doesn't pass in the Senate, they go back to Biden. They go back to VP Kamala Harris. Where is Chuck Schumer? You're tweeting at Biden, today is a good day to cancel student debt, and you ain't passing shit in the Senate. So I want to say to Chuck Schumer, step it the hell up. Get some results. If you got to twist them arms, if you got to do whatever the hell it is that you got to do, you got to do it. You got to bring your caucus along. That's what a leader does. That's what Nancy Pelosi does, even when she has a large faction of different interested parties, whether it's the progressives who don't want to pass certain things. And every time a bill comes through the House, this group is threatening that they're not going to support it. And that group is, and she has a very narrow majority, but she still gets the shit done. So whatever it is that you have to do, Chuck Schumer, you've been a majority leader in waiting for a long time, get it done. Because this not inaction, and you cannot fall back on excuses. And it's not just hurting the Senate, because the Senate they're actually in a better position to get the Senate back in 2022 than they have been for a while. It's going to bring down the entire Democratic Party if Chuck Schumer doesn't figure out a way to get some shit done with 50 votes, plus vice president with the tiebreaker.
I think Reese has established get some shit done. All right. A black man in Oklahoma was facing execution despite recommendations from the State Board of Parole to commute his sentence. Julius Jones was sentenced to death for the 1999 slaying of Paul Howell. Last week, the State Parole Board recommended Jones' death sentence be commuted to life imprisonment without parole. Jones is still awaiting to see if Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt will follow the recommendation from the panel. His execution is set for November 18th by lethal injection. All right, folks, got to go to break. When we come back, missing while black. All of this attention on a white woman whose body was found in Wyoming. Massive media coverage. All the major media outlets. Gwen Ifill once called that white female missing syndrome. And now the media, now they're racing to do stories on black people who are missing. Where have y'all been all of this time? We'll talk with the father of a brother who has been missing, who is trying to get answers, is yet to do so. And also the organization whose focus is on African Americans who come up missing. That is next on Roland Martin Unfiltered, live on the Black Star Network.
White supremacy ain't just about hurting black folk.
Right.
We got to deal with it. It's injustice. It's wrong.
I do feel like in this generation, we've got to do more around being intentional in resolving conflict.
You and I
process.
haven't always agreed.
Yeah.
But we agree on the big piece.
Yeah.
Our conflict is not about destruction.
Conflict's going to happen.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends, go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Hi, I'm Vivian Green.
Hey everybody, this is your man Fred Hammond, and you're watching Roland Martin, my man, Unfiltered.
Folks, all the platforms that I have used, we have used them to shed light on African Americans who have come up missing. Why? Mainstream media has always ignored those stories. We were supposed to have the mother of Jelani Day on the show tonight. Her son has been missing since August 24th. He's an Illinois State University student. Today, a body was found in the Illinois River, and DNA showed that it was indeed Jelani Day. The LaSalle County medical examiner confirmed Day's identity through forensic dental identification and DNA testing. The cause of death remains unknown and is pending further investigation. Again, Day was reported missing on August 25th in Bloomington, Illinois. Folks, thousands of people of color, largely African American, go missing in America. Last year, there were 543,018 people reported missing in America. 40% of those were people of color. Mind you, we make up 13% of the population, and that's people of color. And so not that whole 37% is black. But the reality is it is a significant issue. In 2020, 2002, 899 persons of color were reported missing. Of that group, 145,467 were under the age of 18. Yet if you are black and you come up missing, you can forget about it. But if you are white, especially a white woman, oh my goodness, you can get blanket wall-to-wall coverage. According to the Black and Missing Foundation, there are 3 main reasons for the disparity in media coverage. Runaways, a lot of minority children are initially classified as runaways, so there's no Amber Alert. For missing minority, black and other minority adults, it is believed they have some association with criminal involvement, gangs, and drugs. Lastly, America is simply desensitized. They think missing blacks and other minorities live in impoverished conditions and crime is just a regular part of their lives. These reasons force families to do everything they can to get the word out about their missing sons and daughters. Daniel Robinson has not been seen since June 23rd. The geologist went missing after leaving a work site in the desert in his Jeep Renegade. His father, David, and the co-founder of Black and Missing Foundation, Derrica Wilson, join us right now. I'm glad to have both of you. It is always difficult when we have to report the story of someone whose body has been found, Derica. That is the case for Jelani Day. His mother obviously was shocked to get the news today, processing that death. But this is part of the problem. When black folks come up missing and you don't get it out early on, then it typically leads to these type of endings.
Absolutely. It seems like there's just no sense of urgency when it comes to our cases. You know, I want to say my heart goes out to Jelani Day's family, and I'm happy that Daniel's father is on this show. We've been highlighting those cases. You know, we can roll off our tongues the name Natalie Holloway, Chandra Levy, Casey Anthony, you know, Lacey Peterson, Elizabeth Smart, but can anyone name one missing Black or brown person, just one, who went missing in this country and received mainstream media? It doesn't.
And one that led to movies and miniseries and docuseries and on and on and on.
Absolutely. It is so sad. It's so unfortunate. You know, we're not trying to dishonor any of those communities. We're trying to even the playing field. You know, families such as Daniel Robinson, Deidre Reed, Akia Eggleston, Keosha Jacobs. Those families deserve answers. They deserve the same amount of resource that was applied to Gabby's case. You know, we understand that not all cases are going to bubble up to that mainstream media, but less is more. Less of one particular race and more of everyone that's missing, it greater the chances of a reunion. These families are hurt. I know Mr. Robinson, he's hurt right now.
Mr. Robinson, I want to go to you now. Give us the background, the details of your son. He was working? Was he working with other colleagues? Can you hear?
I can hear you now.
Yes, go ahead. Give us the backstory of what happened with your son. He was working. Was he working with other colleagues? Did he leave alone or with colleagues? What happened?
Well, my son, he works for a company called Matrix New World. Daniel, he's a field geologist for that company. And what he do is he visit well sites. He get assignments. He may visit 2 or 3 in a day. He often meet with one representative from a drilling company who assists him out there at the well site. The morning that my son went missing, he met a gentleman from the company called Weber, and those 2 are the only folks that was out there at the well site. My son do his collection, and the other gentleman do his job on the well site, himself. But this morning they didn't get to do the work. From what I understand, the whole story is based on the gentleman, first of all. But according to that, you know, my son decided to leave work early because of rain, and he headed out west into the desert where he never been seen again.
Okay, first of all, okay, we said the desert. What state, what city, where was this?
It's in Buckeye, Arizona. It's outside of Phoenix. It's on the west side of Phoenix.
All right, so he leaves the site, comes up missing. When did the company notify you or someone that he was missing?
Well, it's roughly around 5 o'clock. I live in Columbia, South Carolina. My daughter, she's also here in Phoenix. She's been living here, out here with my son out here also. And she alerted me. It had to be around 5 o'clock, here in Phoenix. And back home in South Carolina, she called me there and alerted me that the job, one of the workers from the job came to her house searching for him, looking for him.
Okay, so someone came to the looking for him. Okay, so what did the company then do? When were police notified? Was his car found? Was items found? Was it any tracking of his phone? Anything?
No. In fact, I called the police department. My son was living in Tempe at the time. They told me I needed to talk to Buckeye Police Department because that's the last place he was seen. They had me wait 12 hours before I could put in a missing person report. And since then, the job, like I said, yes, question, no, the job have not did anything other than alerted my daughter that he left the job site.
Whoa, hold on. Your son was working for the company.
Yes, he's on duty. That's correct.
The company did not initiate some type of some type of search. They did. So what did the company do? Just, hey, your brother's missing. Let us know if you hear from him. That was it?
That was it.
How many Black people work for this company?
Well, my son, what I understand, I believe he is the only one. You don't find too many geologists out there. He's, in that sense, a minority when it comes to that field. I'm proud of him. There's something he wanted to do, when he came out of high school. So he landed his first job out here, and I was proud of him for that fact.
Okay, so, all right, so he comes up missing. Was in the first 48, 72 hours, first of all, you had to wait 12 hours, I get that. Was any search conducted? Any aerial search? Was there any retracing of the steps? What has his vehicle been found?
No, not at all. Not at all. The first search was 3 days afterwards. I asked them for the search the next morning.
It took 3 days to search for him.
That's correct.
And who did that search?
That was only because my auntie called, and I don't know what she said to them. They canceled the first search, and they decided to send a helicopter out there on the third day. By the time they did that, I was almost to Phoenix because the first day when they denied the search, I was already in my car on the way to, to find out what's going on at that point.
So, company has done nothing. How long did they search for your son?
Well, from what I understand, the third day when they did that search probably lasted for a few hours. I think it was roughly 2 hours. From that point, there was no more search until almost a month later, probably like 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks later. They had a Civil Air Patrol because I requested that. The net search only came after the vehicle was found, and that was on July the 19th. Almost a month later, when my son went missing, a rancher found my son's vehicle in the ravine out there, about 2.5 miles away from where he went missing.
A rancher. Your son's vehicle was discovered how long after he came up missing?
It was on the 19th of July, almost a month, because my son went missing on June the 23rd. And almost a month later, on July the 19th, was when the rancher ran into my vehicle.
So your son came up missing June 23rd. His vehicle was found in a ravine on July 29th. Were any personal effects found in there? Phone, anything?
Well, actually, it was July 19th.
I'm sorry, July 19th.
That's right. And the thing was, when they found the vehicle was found, according to Buckeye and also according to the rancher, my son's his clothing, everything from his underwear, his socks, everything he's wearing, his boots, his clothes was in a pile about 3 feet away from the vehicle. His safety vest that he was wearing that day when he went missing was another foot away from the vehicle, and the vehicle was lying on the side. His personal things, effects was with his clothing out there. His wallet, his cell phone was inside the vehicle, his personal computer, things like that.
Derica, that all sounds absolutely strange, but it also goes to show what happens when you have no real interest. Had there been a real search conducted after that 12 hours, but actually before I ask that, Derica, Daniel, how far, miles or feet, how far was it where his vehicle was found in the ravine from where he was last? He was last with his coworker. What was the distance?
2.5 miles, and they did 2 searches out there, extensive searches, they say, right?
2.5 miles?
2.5 miles. That's
so
correct.
See, Jericho, this is the thing that gets me. Clearly, he was able to access the area by vehicle. Okay, clearly he was able to access the area by vehicle. So if I'm sitting here, if you do a real search, you retrace where he last was.
You absolutely do. And one of my questions is, did the police department, interview any of his colleagues? Did they bring them in for questioning? Did they bring in the cadets to do a grid search of that area? Did they ask for federal FBI resources to help with this case? Did they bring out the drones? Did they bring out the cadaver dogs? Nothing. They spent 2 hours. But in these other cases of people that don't look like us, they're spending from sunup to sundown.
Is that what angers you, Daniel, in that if your son was a missing white woman, that this case would have been absolutely treated completely different?
Yeah, and because I'm a father who loves my son, when I was on the way up here, I'm a go-getter. So the first thing I was doing is, as soon as I realized these guys from day one wasn't taking it really serious, I had to go find them myself. That's why I started my own search parties, and I've been doing it for 7 weeks straight, out there looking for my son.
You also are trying to, I'm correct, hire a private investigator. What are you doing? A GoFundMe, Kickstart? What are you doing to help with that? To ask for help with that?
Well, I've been out here, like I said, since June the 26th. From that time, of course, I have a home in South Carolina. I haven't been home since. But, while I'm out here, if I live in the Spencer, I had to be out here to get the searches going. I had to be out here to get my private investigator. I had to be out here. So, of course, after a while, the GoFundMe was there, created later to help me remain here because, I have to take care of things at home, take care of here, and pay the expenses here while I'm here. So after the searches of 7 weeks of searches, I'm desperate at this point. I can't get the Buckeye Police Department to move on really doing a serious search and investigation on my son. I was running out of resources. The GoFundMe helped me for a certain point. And then, because of the Gabby thing, my son, what I've been working hard for 3 months, finally came up. People started taking my son's stuff serious, and also to help with the GoFundMe, so now I can stay a lot longer to continue what I was doing. I'm about to open the searches back up again.
Well, and Mr. Robinson, we're here to help you as well. We are a resource we're sharing with all of our media contacts, and we will also make a contribution to you. This is absolutely devastating. And, on behalf of the Black and Missing Foundation, our hearts go out to you. No family should have to deal with this. Missing persons is not a Black issue, it's not a white issue, it's an American issue. And we know that this is devastating, just not knowing if Daniel is hurt, if he's being mistreated, if he's hungry, if he's got to walk through the front door. And that's how all these families feel. And that's why we have to make this a priority. All people who are missing deserve that equality.
That's right.
We shouldn't have to fight for everything.
Mr. Robinson, if you could get us that GoFundMe information, we'll also share with my 3 million social media followers, and we'll share it on the show as well.
Yes, sir. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Sir, I appreciate it. Good luck, and we hope you get the answers that you absolutely deserve when it comes to your son. Derica, we also appreciate your work as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Go to my panel, Greg, Reese, and Faraji. Reese, I tell you, again, what is tripping me out is to see white folks in mainstream media write stories about the disparity over the attention when I'm going, the same white editor the same white news director, the one who's assigning the stories, is the one who's determining when the white woman gets coverage and everybody else don't.
Yeah, I mean, and what's crazy here is, it seems like in order for Black stories to get attention, they have to be, a more acceptable and a more upstanding Black citizen. I mean, forget about a runaway, Black person being being covered. But in this case, we have in the case of Daniel Robinson, and my heart goes out to his father. He's so brave for, taking it upon himself and doing these search parties and really fighting to bring his son back home. And I hope and pray that he does return home and they find him alive and well. But he was a geologist. He was a college student. And so he fits the profile in theory of the kind of Black person that would normally, if this person were white, would have immediately received this kind of national attention. So it's awful how these kinds of things only really come to light when there's that comparison and contrast being made. And I don't think that Black people are at all suggesting that white people that come up missing, like Gabby, the one who really brought about this discussion that we're having about disparities, her going missing was tragic, and her being killed was tragic. And we just want the same amount of attention and concern for Black people that are missing.
But look, I got Yahoo up, okay, which was a highly trafficked website. Look, this is the lead story. Warrant for Petito's fiance not related to her death. If I go to, let's see right here. If I go to NewYorkPost.com, and if I go here, boom, arrest warrant issued for Brian Laundrie over Gabby Petito's death. I mean, when you start, bottom line is, when you see these kind of stories, Faraji, I mean, we see massive media attention. I'm talking about mainstream media throwing resources, multiple reporters, multiple staff on one missing white woman, and just repeatedly ignoring all the rest of these stories as if we don't exist. You're on mute. Faraji, you're on mute. Guys, what's going on? Can y'all figure it out, Greg Carr?
Yeah, Roland, just quickly. The Buckeye, Arizona Police Department put on its website, anyone with information that can help solve this case and bring closure to the Robinson family is urged to call the Buckeye Police Department non-emergency number. And you all can look that non-emergency number up. I won't presume that you would even broadcast the number, Roland. But in addition to the GoFundMe, we need to understand that Buckeye, Arizona, which is in Maricopa County, where have we heard Maricopa County in the news over the last couple of years? At any rate, we should destroy their phone lines' capacity to take any other calls. If you can't give any money, dial that number till your fingers fall off, and when they do, use your elbows and ask them what the hell are they doing. We just heard a man whose temperament is heartbreaking in his calmness. He left South Carolina. He left to find it. He said, I went to find my son because they're not looking for him. You're right, Reese, of course. Of course. No human being should be missing. But as the LAPD used to say when they would get a call of Black folk, involving Black folk in Los Angeles, and the Jamaican philosopher Sylvia Wynter took this phrase that the LAPD developed and applied it to the study of Black folk in this country. She said, when the LAPD got a call and they realized it was Black or brown people, they would repeat over the radio NHI, no humans involved. This would not stand for a white woman or a white man for that matter. So let's break the phones of Buckeye, Arizona's police department in Maricopa County, because since you don't seem to think there are any humans involved, we're going to treat you like you treated us. There's no we in this country. I hope that you find it, brother. Roland, when you asked him that question, brother, and he narrated how they found all of his son's clothes, his underwear, his socks, his personal effects in his clothes, strewn out from that car And then that 2.5 mile distance between where his last coworker had seen him. This is not only unacceptable. The only way it becomes unacceptable in this country is when you make these people have to deal with the fact that we will make this place ungovernable until you make it into someplace different. We're not going to stand for this.
Faraji.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that it's interesting because when I look at a media scan of how, this case with Gabby compared to the cases of Black children and Black people, it's always like the media says, you know what, we can do more. It's like this hypocritical stance that, we recognize that we don't put enough emphasis on Black and brown missing people. We recognize that. And then you start having these kind of like bubbling up conversations about the importance of it. The data comes out, 40% of missing of people of color. I mean, all of this, but it's so hypocritical. It's really, really hypocritical. And I think that also that we should look at, okay, is it just us? I mean, just the traditional white media, or is it us, how we feel as a community about when one of our own go missing? I mean, it's each day in Black America, a child is taken, an adult finds themselves missing in this country, right among Black people, and we don't ask the right questions. We just kind of shove in. Oh, okay, they gone for a while, and then bodies end up somewhere, and all of those things. This happens right here in Baltimore. This happens right here in Baltimore, and so it's like we have to have the heart. I mean, some of us do, obviously. We can feel for the Dave family. We can feel for the brother Daniel Robinson's family. Right. We feel that pain. But we need to put that emphasis so that way we can't just put it all on the media. We got to take on that mantle ourselves.
Absolutely. And somebody sent me a tweet. They said, my local news stations have spent so many resources. They all sent reporters to Florida, Wyoming, and Denver.
Wow.
Yeah, CNN has had reporters in multiple locations for the one case. That's how it happens. Hey, folks, earlier we told you about Until Freedom, how they were gathering at Friendship West Baptist Church in Dallas, gathering resources. Let's go live right now to Dallas, Texas. Linda Saussure is one of the co-founders of Until Freedom. Linda, give us a sense of how things have been going there. We were texting earlier, folks dropping off. Are y'all overwhelmed with supplies?
Dallas showed up. We are, as you can see, we have a steady line of people bringing stuff in. We went out and made some purchases here in the Dallas area. Angelo's here, co-founder of Until Freedom, myself and our team, and the wonderful people at Friendship West Baptist Church. Shout out to Freddie Haynes and all the wonderful volunteers that are out here standing in solidarity with our Haitian sisters and brothers at the border.
And so y'all going to be driving 6 hours to Del Rio, Texas. And so, how much stuff have folks brought? Is it one truck, 2 trucks, 3 trucks?
How many trucks?
Yeah, how many trucks?
Yeah, so there are multiple trucks, but some are going to be going to different receiving stations. As you know, people are being released into Del Rio, and then they're being moved to places like San Antonio and Houston, which are some of the major cities that have major airports that people are being sent around the country. So the Del Rio is just a really small area. So this particular U-Haul truck that you see right here is the one that is going to be going to Del Rio, that has baby diapers, baby wipes, sanitary napkins for women, hand sanitizer, baby formula, just a lot of important basic necessities that people need just to feel a little dignified and have some basics for the trip that they have to make either to San Antonio or to Houston or to other parts of Texas.
And look, the reality is there are a lot of folks who are going down the Del Rio for the photo op. Y'all wanted to make sure that that y'all are helping the people. You gotten with Trey, the rapper out of Houston, his organization as well. And so y'all have really put together a strong coalition to provide some help to the folks there, these Haitian migrants.
Absolutely, and we thank you, Roland, for always sharing and giving us this platform. This is about helping our Haitian migrants at the border, but it's also a way to shame the United States government for the treatment of the Haitian migrants at the border. It is their responsibility to bring supplies, to dignify these people, to support these people who are literally in desperation, which is why they're at the border. And so we are demanding that President Biden end Title 42, stop the deportations of these Haitian migrants, and figure out how to process them and give them the opportunity to access a safer and better life here in the United States of America.
And so you talked about going to these multiple cities. Are you also organizing people in those cities to also give as well? And people they want to know, okay, I'm in a city, where do I go? If there's somebody out there who's watching and listening and they want to send money as opposed to supplies, where should they send it to?
So yes, so as you can see, the majority of people who are here with us today are from the Dallas area. They are volunteers. They have come out in solidarity to support this effort. We are asking people to give resources to the Haitian Bridge Alliance. They are an organization that is at the front lines of supporting Haitian migrants across the border, and they have been doing this work for weeks now, not just because of this recent imagery that we saw. So give the Haitian Bridge Alliance. You can also support Until Freedom, untilfreedom.com. We are helping to coordinate and just really add our platform and our resources to this effort.
All right then. Linda, I appreciate it. Y'all doing great work. I was communicating with you and Tamika Mallory last night, what y'all were doing. I said, look, we got to get y'all on the show to show what's going on. And again, for whoever has the camera, just give our folks just a shot of the truck there, all the stuff that y'all have, because folks, y'all can see right there, what you see, the supplies, what they're loading in there. And so a big shout out to all the folks at Until Freedom and all the folks at my former church, Friendship West Baptist Church. Thanks a lot. Y'all take care. Safe travels to Del Rio, San Antonio, and Houston, folks.
Okay, hold on a sec.
Y'all safe travels.
I want to get in there. I want to get in there.
Yeah, say hi. All right, say bye.
All right, y'all. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. See, the thing there, Reese, is, again, there are others who are traveling down there for photo ops. They ain't bringing nothing. They ain't helping nobody. It's all about getting attention. That's how you mobilize and organize community. I'm always talking about on this show how you put the work in and how you mobilize and organize. It's one thing to comment and tweet and post on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, but what Until Freedom is doing, they are actually doing the work.
Absolutely. And, there are a lot of times they take a lot of attacks, personal attacks. And in the process of doing this work, I think it's so important that you showed the images and the video of what is actually being done tangibly, because I think particularly, and I hate to even use the word woke because white folks have just completely gentrified it and ruined it. But there is a reluctance that some of us might have to send money because there's all these allegations of corruption and all these people don't send money, these people send money, these people this, that, and the other. But showing an organization that is, and you can see tangibly what they're doing and where they're going with it is so helpful, because people need to know that there are people on the ground doing the work. Everybody can't travel down to Del Rio. It's probably not even safe for a lot of people to be going down there. You need people that are really trained in this kind of action. To take that kind of direct action. But there are ways that we all can contribute, whether it's financially or whether it's going down there and volunteering and actually donating goods. So what I would encourage you to do is tune out the noise about this personality and that personality and who's doing X, Y, and Z. And the proof is in the pudding. It's all about the action. If you can see the action, then that's what you should be focused on, and how you can be a part of the solution instead of the noise machine.
Raji?
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with Reese, and to also add to it, and I want us to make sure that we put out really accurate information. I see a lot of people talking about Cash App in this group or GoFundMe or you can donate here, Brother Roland. What is, and I want to get your take on this. What is the best way people can give money or to send supplies, and considering Del Rio is being secured by federal and state authorities, what's the likelihood that those supplies will be able to get to our people?
Well, that's why, and when Linda said, they understand that people are not just in Del Rio, and so they're disseminating the supplies in different places. I would dare say to anybody out there, frankly, if you're not in Dallas or Houston or San Antonio, send money. Because here's the deal: if you're going to go to the store and buy some supplies, you're going to be spending money. And so she gave the name of the organization, Control Room. Please get me that name of the organization again that she mentioned. But she also
Haitian Bridge Alliance.
Haitian Bridge Alliance. Y'all get a graphic together and put it on the lower third. Type it in what the website is. Also go to the Until Freedom website. That's what I would do. I would just simply it would be a matter of resources. That's what I would do. Greg, this we talk about this all the time. Why Black-owned media matters. The reality is MSNBC, Fox, and CNN, these networks, they're not going to do that. They're caught up in other sort of stuff. This is why, as your brother said in that promo we're running, our eyeballs need to follow or go where we are. That needs to happen because when we're able to build capacity, when we're able to have not 2,776 watching on YouTube, or right now I think it's 1,400 watching on the Black Star Network app, or Facebook has actually been suppressing our damn live notifications, so our numbers are like 200 and 300 on Facebook. The reality is, when we can build it and have 2 and 3 and 4 and 500,000, that's building capacity. Stories like this, why it matters. Greg, I think you're on mute.
I am. I'm sorry. I was on mute that time. As my brother said, you're right, Roland. Bring your eyeballs home. And we all run into people all the time who watch. They may not watch in real time. They go back and watch later. But, not only do we not expect white-facing media and white-stream media to do that, because this is our mainstream, we shouldn't rely on them. As we saw with the case of the brother who at the verge of losing his job as a principal there in Texas. All of a sudden, he was discovered by white stream media at Black points of entry, but that's because he was here first and then came back. And in the case of what we just saw, brother, it was so incredibly instructive to see our sister Linda Sarsour, to see those women and men loading that truck. And then when you said, have your camera person pan over to see, and then they all paused and they all got in, and the sister said, I want to get in that picture. Why? Because this is home. I mean, today would have been the 95th birthday of John Coltrane. What we saw was, to borrow from his famous recording, the title, A Love Supreme. Yesterday was Jeremiah Wright's 80th birthday. Baba J, happy birthday, brother. And of course, Freddie Haynes is one of his spiritual sons. When the white media tried to crucify Jeremiah Wright, when he said, if this is what America's about, then God blank America, he wasn't talking about the people. He was talking about any system that would put people in that kind of crisis. So finally, looking at that, brother, I think about the great Paul Robeson, who made a recording before they took his passport, he and his wife, before they accused him of being enemies of the state, before they tried to break Paul Robeson, before Paul Robeson spent the last 10 years of his life convalescing at his sister's house in Philly. He was one of the greatest recording artists, most popular recording artists in the world, great film star and all that, and an alpha, but he had good sense to choose that early. But when he recorded that song, The House I Live In, he starts with, what is America to me? A name, a map of a flag I see, a certain word, democracy. What is America to me? But what we just saw is what it is. He said, it's the house I live in. My neighbors, white and black. He said, the church, the school, the clubhouse, the million lights I see, but especially the people. So when I say there is no we, there ain't no we. There's the people, and it starts locally. So if y'all want to do something, and you think there's an America beyond the people who do things like we just saw, If you don't have any money to give, pick up the phone again. Call the White House. Ask Joe Biden's administration why they are appealing the court decision that said you got to stop not letting people in and blaming COVID. Call the Biden administration at the places that Sister Sarsour just let us understand. If they're going to let them in the country, they're going to fly them to places and give them a notice to appear. You need to bang on the Senate, bang on the Congress, bang on the Biden administration, and ask them, what is your policy toward Haitians? What is your policy toward Black people? Are you going to let those people stay here? And then, Roland, I don't know where Kristen Clark is in this or where our sister Vanita Gupta is, but we need to find out what the Department of Justice, what their interface is with this Biden administration policy of continuing the Trump administration policy. If you ain't got no money, get involved in the political process. But that's why Black Star is here, brother. Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. Folks, we're not done. We're not done. First of all, I'm done with the panel. We're not done. First of all, I had a conversation the other night on Clubhouse where I was talking about holding these companies accountable in the wake of death of George Floyd. All these billions, they promised $30 to $50 billion. All these companies talking about how they going to support Black-owned media. They ain't spending the money. I've been calling folks out. And so I had a conversation on Clubhouse. It was interesting because folks were like, oh, why you on Clubhouse? Well, actually, I had a conversation on Clubhouse to tell people we're going to have part 2 on Fanbase. Black-owned app launched by Isaac Hayes III. I'm one of the folks who part of the crowd fund, which he got $3.5 million through crowdfunding to further develop the app. And so I said, we can't talk about Black economic empowerment if we are willingly gonna have conversations on Clubhouse, but don't wanna go over to Fanbase. And so go to my computer. So at 9 p.m. in 48 minutes, I'm gonna have part 2 of our conversation on Fanbase. I want y'all to download the Fanbase app. We're gonna have a conversation over there. Let's blow it out. And I'm gonna walk y'all through this thing with these advertising agencies. And I'm gonna walk y'all through why I call out brands specifically, because y'all need to understand what's going on. And so download that Fanbase app. Trust me, you want to check that out. Also, of course, yesterday we talked about the death of Melvin Van Peebles. Just tremendous man, amazing story. And so the director, Michael Schultz, he did Car Wash, he did Coolie Hot and others. I'm double checking because he recorded, he wanted to come on the show live. He's actually working, he sent me a video. I'm not sure if the video has come through, doesn't appear that way. So I'm gonna send him a text again and try to get that video. But what I'm going to do though is earlier today, I had a conversation with the journalist, author. I mean, he's done so much. He's done so much in the business, and that is Nelson George. And he had some amazing things to say, y'all, about Melvin Van Peebles, some jewels that actually just blew me away. And I wanted y'all to actually hear that. Here's my conversation with Nelson George.
Nelson George, always glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered, my brother.
Good to be here, man. Good to be here. Sad to be talking about what we're going to talk about, though.
Indeed. Melvin Van Peebles lived an extraordinary life, passed away at the age of 89. And I came across a video on YouTube of this unbelievable conversation with Gordon Parks, Melvin Van Peebles, and Ossie Davis, and you participated in that.
Well, those brothers, they're the godfathers of contemporary African-American film, in that Gordon made Learning Tree in Hollywood, his first film adaptation of one of his books. Melvin did Watermelon Man, very close behind him. And right there in that same ballpark with Ossie Davis, several of them had done, so these three guys are sort of the benchmarks if you look at what we've done all the way up to Barry Jenkins and Ava DuVernay and so forth. These guys were the breakthrough in terms of the civil rights era. Was Melvin probably the most iconoclastic? Because Melvin's, so here's the story. Melvin did a film in France first called Serve a 3-Day Pass. It was done in very new wave style. He was able to raise money in France that he wasn't able to raise in America. And that was like in 1966 or 67. He was seen by Hollywood. He made a Hollywood movie called Watermelon Man with Godfrey Cambridge. But he realized that the statement he wanted to make could not be made in Hollywood. And he made a movie called Sweet Sweet Beck's Badass Song about a male hustler who who sees a man being beaten, shoots 2 cops, and goes on the run. And that was a revolutionary film in that the black character was not a clean-cut Sidney Poitier character. He was from the underclass. He shot police. He didn't just, yell at them. And he escaped. He escapes to Mexico at the end of the film. It was a film that the Panthers embraced, the film that black people embraced. And it set a new template for a black action hero that then leads into the whole blaxploitation era. So that one film alone was revolutionary.
Now here's what's interesting here, because the New York Post, and I've been highly critical of, and I've been blasting them. They have a headline that included blaxploitation in it, but he was a critic of that. And it's interesting that they're trying to link him as if he was their headline was literally he was a black exploitation director. No, he wasn't.
No. What happened is that his film situates a black hero attacking the establishment in an anti-establishment frame. The blaxploitation movies were usually adaptations of detective novels, or they had pimps. They were all very conventional. They were never as transgressive as Sweetback was. So they took elements of Melvin's success, because they knew there was a black audience that was craving this, and made a formula. But I also want to point out to you that Melvin wasn't just a movie maker.
Right.
So Sweetback comes out in 1971. In 1972, he takes a lot of the money he made from Sweetback. He has not one, but 2 plays on Broadway. Ain't Supposed to Die a Natural Death and Don't Play Is Cheap. Unprecedented. He had 2 plays on Broadway at the same time. Plays that he wrote, directed, and raised a lot of the money for. He also helped trailblaze marketing in terms of Broadway, because he went out and was able to get black church groups to come out and see the plays, and targeted them at a time when that wasn't done on Broadway. So the other part of that I should mention when I talk about these 2 plays is that one of them was a musical. That all during this time, Melvin is also a recording artist. He made a number of recordings throughout his career, many of which ended up into soundtracks to different movies and different plays. So the brother was a film director. He was a playwright. He was a music composer, and he wrote books way before he even made movies. One of his first books was done back in the late 60s, or maybe early 60s, when he was a cable car conductor in San Francisco. He wrote a book about being a cable car conductor. So this was a man who lived an extraordinarily diverse creative life. So Sweetback is the big bang, if you will, but there are so many works. I was watching Melvin perform at nightclubs in New York 10 years ago. He was still doing club dates where he sang, had a little band behind him, and was so he lived a super vital creative life.
And what you unpack there, and then of course, my goodness, he decides to, what the hell, I'm going to trade stocks on Wall Street. And so here was someone who said, you know what? The fences or the boxes that you want to put me in, no more boxes. I'm not going to do it. You're not going to put me in that box. And if I want to go here, I'm going to go here. If I want to do this, I can do this. And I think there's a lesson in that for so many people who are told, you know what, just do this. And I identify with it because as a one launching my own independent company and show and the frustration I always had when I worked in mainstream media, but also when I worked in black media, was the limitation. No, we just want you to do this. And I'm like, no, but my talents are all over. Why? I want to be able to use all of these gifts.
Yes.
That to me was so powerful. And the true lesson to learn from a Melvin Van Peebles, a Gordon Parks.
Yeah, I mean, Melvin, I got to know Melvin pretty well over the years. And he was always about be yourself, follow your vision. First time I met Melvin, I was a college student in 1978, I think. I went to interview him for a magazine. I walked in, brother had on, he was sitting in a wheelchair in the middle of his office, had no shoes on, no shirt, but had trousers on, suspenders, a hat, was smoking a cigar. And I was like, wow, that's unconventional. And that's how he lived his life. He never tried to fit in. He made himself be who he was. You know, he totally was a free spirit. I'll tell you something interesting about Melvin. I found out yesterday. So I have an agent at CAA who was friends with Melvin. He says that when he joined CAA in early 90s, Melvin negotiated his contract. I said, are you kidding me? He said, no, Melvin knew money. Melvin knew money. And so this is a white guy. He trusted Melvin to negotiate his agent deal with Creative Artists Agency, the biggest creative artist agency, talent agency in the world, because he respected Melvin's business acumen. So that just gives you one idea of how diverse and how learned he was in so many different areas.
And whenever this happens, a lot of folks like, oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that. But the reality is, you see that in his son, you see that in his children, you see that in Mario's children. You see this whole idea of there are no boundaries. And all too often for African Americans, especially in our parents, for a lot of us, look, son, to daughter, look, get you a good job, get a steady job, just, don't make waves. But then you get older, and then people start thinking back and, man, I wish I had done this and I wish I had done that. And they have these regrets. I think Melvin Van Peebles lays down in his home in Manhattan, passes away. He passes away with no regrets.
Oh, Melvin, as long as he could, Melvin was running the streets of New York. He jogged all the time. I mean, he lived a very full life. I'll tell you another story. I was shooting an independent film about 10 years ago. And I said, Melvin, I ain't got no money, but can I get you to do one improv scene with me? Brought me up to his place. I had the actress with us, had little cameras, knocked it out. He gave her something to drink. We watched some movies together. I mean, if he thought you were trying to do something unconventional, he was there for you. And I felt like he was, for me, it was great to get to know him, because he was someone who, and you'll find this in everybody, anybody who's around Melvin for any amount of time was inspired. Inspired because he wasn't conventional. He didn't fit any of the boxes of open mobility, but he always was moving forward. His apartment, he designed the furniture in his apartment. He had a hot dog that was a dresser. He had like the back of a truck in his living room that spewed kind of like smoke. He had paintings. He was a constantly inventive. And I think for anyone who's living a creative life, the idea is not to be boxed in, as you said, and it's also to be constantly doing stuff. You're never going to retire. Retiring is for people who have a 9-to-5. If you're out in this world trying to create visions, go for it constantly. Always be experimenting, always be learning, always be challenging yourself. And just to be in his proximity was to feel that energy and to feel that history. I mean, the brother came from, at one point, he left Chicago. He was a cable car reporter in San Francisco. At one point, he lived as a street painter in Mexico City. He went to Paris. He lived in Amsterdam and went to school in Amsterdam, and then went to Paris, where he sort of began his life as a writer and ultimately a filmmaker. So he was also not afraid to move out of his comfort zone. Being a Black man traveling the globe throughout the 50s, he was able to open his vision, and not be boxed in by the American boxes.
what you just said, that thing really stands out when you said, look, man, I don't have any money for it. Can you do this? He's like, no problem. And that, if there's one thing, Nelson, that sort of drives me crazy, and it really does. And I said this a couple of weeks ago on Twitter. I said, it doesn't actually cost me anything to help somebody out and retweet something. It doesn't. If somebody hits me up and say, hey, Roland, can you do me a solid and do a mention on your show? Okay. Now, obviously, that's relationship.
Sure.
Because you also know that person and who they are and what they do. But this is someone who, like you said, if I see somebody who's trying to do something, man, I'm gonna go ahead and help you. That is in many ways is uncommon. That's not common. It's uncommon for folks to do that. And I think a lot of people, when we talk to elders who've become ancestors, it's amazing how that is a consistent theme when we talk about many of those ancestors.
Oh, listen, I'm working on a documentary right now about Willie Mays. Willie Mays is 90 years old. Mm-hmm. And the key phrase in Willie's life is take care. He says, so-and-so took care of me. I took care of blah, blah, blah. In other words, he was mentored by older black ball players. And then he became a mentor to a younger black ball player. And he felt that was part of what you did. I feel like that's an important part of Melvin's DNA, and perhaps that whole generation of people who came up during the Depression. You know, these are Depression babies. And so no one had anything when they first came up. So if you had something, you gave someone, a shirt. You let someone use your pants because there was no money, and all you had was each other. And so he had a very strong sense of community. A lot of folks have known Melvin for years. There's so many young now middle-aged filmmakers who were young filmmakers who gravitated around him and sat and listened to him. He wasn't someone who gave inspirational speeches. His life was inspirational. You know, how he lived was inspirational. Now, I started smoking cigars because of Melvin.
Well, as somebody who's allergic to cigars, I'll pass on that one. Okay. But I'll grab. I'll do all the other stuff that he did. As you said, man, an extraordinary life. I've had opportunity because I was literally just in LA a few weeks ago where I interviewed Mario for this one-on-one series that I'm going to be launching on my OTT network, Black Star Network. And we were able to use some stuff in the tribute last night as he talked about his dad and some life lessons and things along those lines. And the reality is what he did in his life, he certainly passed on to his children. And at the whole point, what you said about Willie Mays, take care. Mario is passing on to his children. And hopefully that's what other people will learn, that it doesn't make sense to have all of this knowledge and expertise that is just sitting in your head. Share it, bless it with some other folk, and give them a sense of what freedom is like, what free expression is like, and what independence is like.
Yes, absolutely. Because Melvin was the ultimate independent. He made films, he wrote books, he made plays, he made records. He made them and then figured out how to get them out. And that's what he did his whole life. And he stayed one of the most idiosyncratic and interesting artists in American history.
And of course, I'm 52, be 53 in November. You are in the same area, same age, and we sit here and go, damn, we got more work to do, all the stuff that brother did.
Absolutely. I said that to my fiance last night, like, wow, I thought I was working. I ain't working hard enough.
There you go. Nelson, always good to see you, my brother.
Thank you for having me.
You take care.
Take care.
That is it for us, folks, on Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network. Don't forget to download the Black Star Network app on all available platforms: iPhone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, Xbox Smart TV. Also, be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. You can give to us and our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans, giving about average of $50 each. $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day for compelling content you're not going to find anywhere else. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Folks, That's it. I'll see you guys tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. And I'll see y'all on Fan Base in less than 30 minutes. Holla!